Do not make these mistakes when you're on the Camino. So we're going to talk about my experience doing the Road Santiago, the Camino. I learned a thing or two over the course of the 30, then 33 days, walking, trekking, hiking. And number one is do not have the wrong backpack. So if you've seen my other videos before I went on the trek, you see a relatively normal backpack that has light padding on the shoulders and some light padding on the back. However, you know what it didn't have? It didn't have binding. Spoiler alert, this is the new backpack that I had to get, that I chose to get after 3 days of walking with that other backpack. And you'll notice that the weight is distributed a little more on the top. And why that's so important, and by the way, this is a good brand if you're looking for one, but go to a store where they can actually have you fitted, because this one, it's not a perfect fit, but it's certainly a lot better than the other backpack. And the reason why you need a hiking backpack and not just a backpack that seems like it's an elevated JanSport is because it really saves your back and your shoulders. And I'm just going to put in a little tip here. You want to tighten it around your hips a little bit more as a woman, then that will make your center of gravity, your hips, the place where most of your weight is held, and then your shoulders feel a lot freer and you can breathe, no more shooting pains. And then for men, you want to do the opposite, tighten it on your shoulders and have it be a little bit looser around your hips. I had the experience of trekking for 3 days with a relatively normal backpack and, you know, people teasing me about it. And then it just became abundantly clear, okay, it's time to bite the bullet. And this is not sustainable for the entire month. So yeah, you don't need to go through that. Definitely go ahead and do that in advance, getting a professional hiking backpack that is fitted to you. The second mistake is overpacking. So the rule of thumb is to not pack more than 10% of your body weight. I already broke that rule. I packed 17 pounds and I met someone else who her pack was 22 pounds. And she also brought a tub of peanut butter to snack on. And you'll learn very quickly on the trek that every little bit counts. And you already know what I packed. If you have seen the video, what I packed on the Camino, go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. What I will say is I would even go as far as to say, just have one outfit. Seriously, one outfit and one PJ option. That's it. And just really anything that seems like a nice to have or anything that you could possibly pick up at a convenience store along the way, do not bring it. I met a woman along the trek who she literally had a 7-pound backpack. And because she knew she didn't want to be sending her bag, we'll talk about that later, because that wasn't an option for her. You really do feel every ounce, every pound. So next time, I do think there will be a next time. My goal, you can mark my words, will be around 10 pounds. I think it can happen. The third thing that I would like you to avoid, that unfortunately I did not totally avoid, is leaving your things along the way. Some people do it intentionally. I did it both intentionally and unintentionally. And actually, it took me 3 weeks. There was this one day where I slept really poorly at a municipal, one of those public albergues, and I somehow left one of my bags full. I had little sectionals of different things, and all of my socks, underwear vanished. So then my new mission, this becomes your mission when you leave something. First, I tried to call them and have it shipped, but it took them 2 weeks to locate it. Not a great sign for their cleaning crew. So yeah, ultimately, if you leave something, just be at peace. It's probably gone. And you need to go and either deal with having less, or along the way, find a new pair of socks, find a new, whatever you need. Don't underestimate the power of sleep deprivation. And I even remember going to my bag and thinking, wow, things are fitting in a lot more nicely. And I convinced myself that I just got way better at packing. Really, I had left a section of my bag behind. Number 4, an unevenly distributed bag. This is a mistake. And this is something, especially, let's say you're sleep deprived, or let's say that you just don't give a F and you're just throwing all your things in your bag. And maybe you have a lot more weight on one side or the other. I know something that I commonly saw that I began to do myself was to have 2 little water bottles on either side of my backpack, which I think was really helpful, at least, in the scheme of things. Maybe it wasn't, the end all be all, but just doing what you can when you are packing to have things evenly distributed on the right and left, or else you will begin to feel it over time. You can find out a technique that works best for you, but I liked having the heavier things on top and putting things like my comfy PJs on the bottom because they kind of had more bulk to them, but less weight. Number 5, going to only the check marked cities. And you may be wondering, what the heck is a check marked city? So I used an app called Camino Ninja. That's not very helpful at the moment. It's loading. But basically, see, you can select your route. You can select where you're starting, where you're going. There are a few places on the map. It sets you up to do, France to Santiago in 32 days, and there are check marks. And a lot of people just go by those check marks. But sometimes going off the beaten path can be charming. So those check mark cities are the most popular cities, the most well-populated. Maybe they have the highest quantity of places to stay. So yeah, especially if you're not booking in advance, that will be the smartest way to go. Just go by the checkmarked cities. But some of the best meals and some of the best experiences that I had in meeting new people or randomly reuniting with people that I had met earlier was, just maybe one town after, a couple towns after the main checkmarked town that everyone's going to. Number 6, this mistake is being rigid in your Camino plan. And what I mean by that is people oftentimes say one of 2 things, like, oh, it's your Camino, walk it how you'd like. And then there's another camp of people that says, but this is exactly how I'm going to do it, and nothing else is acceptable to me. So if you are a very traditional pilgrim, chances are you're only staying at municipal albergues and you are only going on foot. You're not utilizing horseback or bikes or ferries, which are the other options that are available. And you're never sending your backpack. You're always carrying everything with you. And maybe you're taking rest days. That's usually allowed. I did things a little bit differently. So I did feel strongly about walking. And I also felt strongly about no rest days. However, it became abundantly clear, especially when I had the wrong backpack, that there was a lot of pain associated with wearing that pack. And hopefully you will alleviate having that level of pain, because you'll have the right gear. I ended up sending my bag. So there's a bag service where you can pay €5 and send your bag from, a starting point, and then ideally where you're going to be ending up, the next city that you'll be at the end of your walking that day. So yeah, I ended up taking kind of a half day, walking with half of it and then sending it the second half. And then I just made an executive decision that I would be sending my bag weekly, whether I really needed it or not, just to give my back and my hips a break, which was so nice. Not making yourself get to a place where you're really needing it, where you're able to really maintain an element of joy on your trek, right? Where that's at least a possibility. Number 7, not giving yourself enough time and space. So I wouldn't necessarily go as far as to say as this is your vacation, but some people do really think it is. It's not the most leisurely vacation, but I guess you're taking a break from your whole life. So, okay, let's just say that it is a vacation. Why would you put parameters on yourself that don't allow for rest days or don't allow for maybe an extra day in a city that you have fallen in love with or in? Right? So it's one of those things where this is a mistake that I personally made, okay? But I gave myself 40 days and it took me 30 to go to Santiago at least, because I wanted to travel around a little bit after. But there were so many people that I encountered who only gave themselves 32 days. And it took them exactly 32 days. And they had to get creative with cutting corners and maybe rushing a part of the time when they really would have rather have not. Number 8 actually goes along with this rigidity. It's a mistake of only staying at, certain accommodations like albergues, right? That are municipal. That's what a lot of people do. But being flexible in where you stay allows you to have different experiences. And, I'm going to be a little more clear about this point number 8 is really allowing yourself to make your own decisions when it comes to where you stay, because it can be tempting if you meet someone and they're staying at one place. But if you feel really compelled, and there's a specific instance where maybe this was a premonition, or really wanted to stay at this really cute hotel there was a waterfall and just beautiful canopies, kind of an upscale barnyard feel. And then the group that I was hanging out with at the time, they were going to the municipal. And I thought, well, okay, for the sake of socializing, I'm going to stay where they're staying. And then I had a horrible night's sleep. And I was like, I got to go to the beat of my own drum. Lesson learned. It's not all about staying in beautiful places, obviously, although for some people it is. There are some people that stay exclusively at hotels. That's the other end of the spectrum. But really just go off of what you truly want in the moment. And we'll go into that in a little more depth in just a moment. Number 9, this is piggybacking off of that. It's getting too caught up with a group. So I will say that the first week, I made a group of friends pretty quickly. And we were, without really even realizing it, following the check marks, because many of us were walking together and spending a lot of time cooking. And this is actually that same day. One of the reasons why I didn't stay at that hotel that I really wanted to was because one of the members of the group actually booked my bed. And it was such a sweet gesture, right? Oh, hey, we booked you a bed, just, pay us back the €8. And it made me realize, oh, wait, I do always have the agency. You always have the agency to choose where you're sleeping when you're on the Camino. However, sometimes there can be people pleasing that comes up. There can be, oh, but they expect me, or, oh, they want me here. So, it can be an opportunity to, again, ask yourself what you want and how you feel. And there are some people that miraculously, stay together for 2 weeks, or maybe even someone would find one friend and then walk with them for the entire month. And what ends up happening in those situations is then, let's say you are taking a rest day when you're not tired, or you're tired and then someone else is taking a rest day with you when they don't really want to, or, and it becomes about this interdependence, which, okay, certainly if you do this with a significant other, with a good friend, and you want to stay together, then yeah, that's one way to do it. But it's also an opportunity to be radically self-reliant. So you miss out on that opportunity when you're tuning to other people's needs in this experience, in my opinion. I would really, encourage you to allow this to be your own. And even if you lose your group, and what happened to me after the first week is one person skipped ahead, skipped a whole section. Someone else got injured, and the group naturally dispersed. And then I would kind of see certain people at various points of time, and some people never again. That's kind of, there are lots of saying hello, saying goodbye, and there's uncertainty. There's social uncertainty on the Camino, and just really being true to your intuitive inclinations. It can be really cool when you actually cross paths with people again, when you're really true to what that is. There was a woman that I met towards the end, and I think I saw her briefly on week 1, and then we developed much more rapport and sort of friendship. I'm like, wow, how did we not see each other for 3 weeks? And then now we're somehow in the exact same place. Like, you just never know. Number 10 has to do with being restrictive with your diet. Okay, so I definitely met someone who decided to be gluten-free, like low carb, during the Camino. I met someone who thought, oh, this is a great time to cut out sugar. And okay, you're already being so disciplined when it comes to walking relatively high mileage every day or most days. It's one of those things where, sure, you can add another layer, or you can decide, again, to plug into that intuitive sense that you have and be mindful of your health, certainly, but also have some flexibility. Okay. That's just going to be so much, so much better, because I will say the food in Spain, I don't know anyone, myself included, that raves about it, but it sustains you. Okay. So my go-to would be tortilla patata and zumo di naranja natural. So freshly squeezed orange juice and this sort of egg dish. And it would usually come with bread, maybe like the equivalent of half a loaf sometimes. I'd eat the whole thing, you know, doing high mileage. And typically I don't have a lot of carbs because I typically feel my best when I have, high protein, lots of fruits and vegetables. But I was like, one in Rome, one in Spain, this is how it goes. And I really want to be sustained and also treat myself to things that maybe I don't normally have if you see a pastry along the way. And this isn't to say if you're a diabetic, go crazy. However, just allow yourself those indulgences when it comes to embracing the culture, embracing the food, taking some time to wander around when you get to a place. And bonus number 11 is expecting to have an epiphany. And I know it sounds wild. How can you expect to have an epiphany? Well, you have all of the key ingredients, right? You're in nature, you're in solitude, maybe you have unplugged from technology, and maybe something catastrophic happened in your life, or you simply have the time and space for something inspired to come to you. Well, that's a mistake, believing that you necessarily will have or even need to have a groundbreaking epiphany. I will say that some of the most profound sorts of experiences or realizations rather can happen after the Camino. And that's not to say that you won't have a really interesting, crazy download, but if you go in expecting it, it's going to be a mistake. And know that some of our greatest lessons are actually a little more subtle. There you have it. Those are my 10 newbie mistakes that now, ideally, you don't have to make because you know about them. So go ahead and let me know if you've done the Camino. Did you make any of these mistakes? And tell me what that story was, or tell me how that impacted you. Or if you have not done it yet, which one of these tips was the most helpful? What is something that maybe you were planning to do that you're going to do a little bit differently now? So go ahead and let me know that. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Until next time.